Discipline and termination are actions that a teacher might face during their teaching careers, and they need to know what actions can be taken against them and what they are protected against. In the first topic, dismissal, discipline, layoff, and termination, there's a link to the Educational Trust West, which goes a little bit more in depth into these circumstances, but for now I'll go over a few of them. Teachers are typically dismissed, disciplined, or terminated for immoral conduct, incompetence, committing a crime, neglect of their duties to their students and to their working environment, non-compliance with laws and also district policies, insubordination, and there's a lot more, but those will be the main ones that we'll stick with for now. So it's not typical for teachers to receive discipline and termination for no reason. The key is that there has to be a justifiable and identifiable cause for concern on behalf of an institution or a group, and then actions can be taken against the teacher. A little bit more specifically, layoffs fall into a different category, and they're more financially and seniorally driven. So that's more having to do with when a district analyzes its budget and says we can't keep any more teachers, the teachers that have only been teaching 5 years or less in comparison to those who have been there a long time get fired. So that has more to do with the budget and the seniority one has as a teacher. But overall, these are the actions that can be taken against a teacher. But the point is, as I mentioned before, is that there has to be a just and identifiable cause to take actions against a teacher. Sometimes you'll hear, and I've even heard in my own classroom, of teachers that have had actions taken against them and they've lost their case. But it's because they didn't understand what they could do to get legal representation and to counteract biased and prejudiced actions against them. So this is going to be important for anyone who might face these actions in the future. One of the key things is that evidence has to be presented in order for actions to be taken against a teacher. This can be witness statements, this can be tracked logs of communications, all kinds of things, but there has to be substantiated evidence in order for actions to be taken against a teacher. But this is the most important thing that one needs to know when facing discipline or termination. Under the protection of the 14th Amendment, you are entitled to due process. And what this means is that you are entitled to legal representation and also for a chance to stand up against the claims made against you. There's 3 parts to this that are protected underneath the 14th Amendment, and this is also what teacher unions and labor unions will be fighting for, especially if they give you legal representation. The first thing is that you have to be notified of actions taken against you. There has to be either a written or verbal communication by an authority figure as to what actions are being taken against you and what you can do about them. Most often this will come in writing, and it is mandatory that it does come in writing. So even if somebody does come and talk to you, unless it's in writing, then you have technically not been notified. So that's important to know. That's the first step. The second thing is you have to be told what evidence is presented against you. And this is where legal representation comes in. When you have legal representation and the evidence is presented to you, then you can look at the evidence and start building a case against it. So just know that after you're notified, you are entitled to, especially with legal representation, to look at the evidence and start to build your case. Because the third step is the actual hearing, in which you as a teacher will go to court and present your evidence and your findings and defend yourself as a defendant against the prosecuting district or university. So just don't forget that there's protections underneath the 14th Amendment in that 3-step process. And with legal representation, which can be gained through labor unions and through some of the labor boards and teachers unions, you have to be notified in writing of the actions that are being taken against you, and you are entitled to look at the evidence, and then you are entitled to a hearing in which you get to defend yourself. Once all those things are taken, then one can either face up to the actions they've committed that qualify their dismissal, or they'll be able to defend themselves and exercise their rights to remain in the classroom. And this being said, since this is the end of the presentation, there's a couple questions that we have as discussion to dig a little bit deeper. So as we get ready to end our presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope that you take these questions with you to think about so that you don't just hear a presentation, but you really consider the rights and responsibilities you have to the teaching profession and the place you work, also with the students. The first question is this: what will you do to make sure you are aware of your rights as a teacher and find support for remaining protected from unjust action? This is the second question. What are the benefits of joining a teachers union? Are there any ways in which this could be a complication for a teacher? And the final question: how will you make sure to act in the best interests of your students in the midst of navigating your rights and professional responsibilities? So we hope you take these 3 questions with you and really think deeply about the rights you have under law and the responsibilities you bear not only to the places you work, but to the students and other professionals that you serve. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and if there are any additional questions or you'd like to look in further into this issue, we have a references page right after this, and we also have an accompanying handout that will take you deeper as well. Thank you so much.